You're too expensive." Wayne Fletcher slid the termination papers across his mahogany desk like he was dealing cards in Vegas. "I'm Evan Martinez, 47 years old, and I'd just been fired from the best cybersecurity job in Northern Virginia." I nodded, placed my security token on the table, and walked out. 48 hours later, a DoD general was pointing at Wayne's offshore team asking, "Who are these civilians touching classified data? Shut it down. Shut it all down now, but let me back up and tell you how a 3-week CFO managed to turn a routine cost-cutting meeting into a federal crime scene." The server room at Aerotech Solutions smells like ozone and 20 years of broken promises. For the past 8 years, I've been the guy standing between this company's classified data and a federal prison sentence. Before that, I spent 12 years in the Army Signal Corps, back when people actually understood what security clearance meant. I was in Kandahar in 2010 when our forward operating base got hit by insurgents who'd somehow intercepted our communications. Turned out some contractor back in the States had cut corners on encryption protocols to save money. 3 good soldiers died because someone thought cybersecurity was just another line item to optimize. That's when I learned that information security isn't about protecting data, it's about protecting lives. When I got out in 2012, I could have taken a cushy job at some Silicon Valley startup, but defense contractor work felt like continuing my service. Same mission, civilian clothes. Aerotech handles real-time logistics coordination for military operations overseas, the kind of information that in the wrong hands tells enemy forces exactly when and where American convoys are moving. I've been keeping this place compliant with federal regulations while younger, cheaper alternatives come and go. Every 6 months, some new hotshot with an MBA tries to explain to me why we should outsource our security to the lowest bidder. Every 6 months, I show them the federal requirements, the clearance protocols, the 18-month vetting process for anyone who touches classified systems. Usually they back down. Wayne Fletcher was different. It was a Tuesday when they called me upstairs. HR text at 2:30 p.m., "Bring your badge." Classic corporate execution style, make a man walk to his own firing squad. I'd seen this dance before, but something felt different this time, more final. The conference room on the 12th floor was freezing cold, probably to keep Wayne's ego from melting all over the imported furniture. Wayne Fletcher, 3 weeks on the job, MBA from Wharton, and he was about to lecture me about operational efficiency. The kid looked like he'd never seen a uniform, let alone worn one. His tie probably cost more than my monthly car payment. "Evan," Wayne said, leaning back in his ergonomic chair like he owned the Pentagon, "we've been reviewing departmental expenditures, specifically your position and associated costs." I stayed standing. My back was killing me from crawling under server racks that morning, and I wasn't about to give this corporate climber the satisfaction of looking down at me. 20 years of service taught me when to show respect and when to maintain dignity. "Your compensation package is premium," he continued, sliding a folder across the table like it contained state secrets. 125,000 base, plus benefits and clearance differential. That represents significant overhead for what our analysis suggests is essentially IT maintenance. I adjusted my dog tags under my shirt, old habit when dealing with civilians who fundamentally don't understand the mission. It's not IT maintenance, Wayne. It's national security compliance. I maintain TS/SCI protocols for DoD contracts worth $40 million annually. He waved a hand like he was swatting flies. "We've identified a solution that's more aligned with our fiscal optimization strategy. Offshore technical services provider, very dynamic team, proven track record. 58% cost reduction." I stared at him, really looked, searched for any flicker of understanding that we handled real-time logistics data for military operations overseas. Information that could get American soldiers killed if it fell into the wrong hands. Saw nothing but spreadsheet calculations and quarterly bonus projections dancing behind his eyes. "Wayne," I said, keeping my voice level the way they taught us in leadership training, "does this dynamic team have the required security clearances? Because what we do here requires federal vetting that takes 18 months minimum. Background investigations, polygraph examinations, lifestyle audits." He laughed. Actually laughed like I'd told him a knock-knock joke. "You military guys always make everything sound like life and death. It's just data, Evan. Numbers on computer screens. The important thing is maximizing shareholder value and operational efficiency." That's when the cold feeling hit me. Same feeling I had in Afghanistan when I watched fresh lieutenants walk into situations they didn't understand because they couldn't read the tactical situation. This wasn't just stupidity. This was dangerous, willful ignorance. I thought about my daughter Sophie, finishing her junior year at Virginia Tech. Engineering major, just like her old man, but smarter, way smarter. I thought about the promise I made to her mother before the cancer took her 5 years ago, that Sophie would never have to worry about tuition money. Never have to choose between education and financial security. This job was that promise. $847 per month in college payments. Automatic transfer on the 15th of every month since Sophie started freshman year. Financial stability in an uncertain world. What about knowledge transfer protocols, I asked. The handover documentation, training procedures. Wayne's smile got wider, more condescending. All documented, I'm sure. Besides, how complicated can it be? Everything's automated these days. Point, click, secure, modern technology. Evan, the wave of the future. Right there, I knew this company was about to step on an improvised explosive device, but arguing with Wayne would be like explaining network topology to a golden retriever. Lots of head tilting, no actual comprehension. Some lessons can only be learned through experience, and Wayne was about to get a masterclass in why cybersecurity isn't a commodity service. When does this transition take effect? I asked. Immediately, the new team is already spinning up, very eager to demonstrate their capabilities. Wayne's fingers drummed on his desk like he was playing piano. We'll need your access credentials, documentation, and any proprietary tools or processes you've developed, and my replacement. The offshore team will handle everything remotely. Much more efficient. No overhead for office space, benefits, all that expensive American labor nonsense. I nodded slowly. Military training teaches you when to pick your battles, and this wasn't one I could win with PowerPoint presentations and cost-benefit analyses. Some people have to learn by touching the hot stove. Okay, I said, you're the boss. Wayne blinked. He was expecting a fight, maybe some begging, certainly some emotional display about loyalty and years of service. Instead, he got military professionalism and tactical withdrawal. I unclipped my badge and placed it on the table next to Wayne's overpriced coffee cup. Then I pulled out my RSA token, the master key to every classified system in the building, and set it down with a soft click that echoed in the silent room. The system requires manual heartbeat verification every 6 hours, I said. My voice steady as a drill sergeant's. Miss it twice, and federal protocols kick in automatically. The procedures are documented in my desk manual, along with the emergency contact tree and escalation matrices. Wayne nodded like he was listening, but I could see his eyes already calculating next quarter's cost savings, numbers dancing where situational awareness should have been. There's also the thermal management protocols, I continued. Server rack in corner 3 overheats if you run diagnostics during peak hours. The federal uplink authentication requires specific timing sequences, not just the right passwords. And the backup generators need manual verification codes during power transitions, right? Right, Wayne said, scribbling notes he'd probably never read. The new team has full technical documentation packages. Very thorough people. Ivy League consultants designed their processes. I walked out without shaking his hand. 19 years of military and civilian service, and it ended with a corporate buzzword salad about optimization and efficiency. No ceremony, no recognition, just a balance sheet calculation that reduced my career to a line item. On my way to the elevator, I stopped by the junior IT station where Tommy Foster was debugging network connectivity issues. Kid was 24, fresh out of Virginia Tech with a computer science degree and enough enthusiasm to power the building. I'd been mentoring him for 8 months, teaching him the difference between academic knowledge and real-world application. Tommy, I said quietly, pulling him aside, that offshore transition Wayne just authorized, stay completely away from anything related to Project Arrows. Don't touch those systems, don't provide access assistance, don't even acknowledge you know they exist. Tommy's face went serious. He'd learned to trust my judgment about potential career hazards. What's Project Arrows? Military logistics coordination, classified beyond your clearance level. When this arrangement goes sideways, and it absolutely will, you don't want your digital fingerprints anywhere near the wreckage. Should I warn the other guys? They won't listen. Corporate already made the decision. Just protect yourself and document everything you do for the next few weeks. Paper trail might save your job when the investigation starts. I packed my personal belongings. Photo of Sophie at her high school graduation. My Signal Corps challenge coin, the coffee mug Sophie gave me last Christmas that read World's Best Dad and Cybersecurity Expert. Left everything else, the technical manuals I'd written over 8 years, the sticky notes explaining system quirks that weren't in any documentation, the troubleshooting guides that had prevented dozens of potential security incidents. But here's what Wayne didn't understand about hiring dynamic overseas contractors for classified defense work. They operate from scripts written by people who've never seen the actual systems. No institutional knowledge, no intuition developed through years of experience. They don't know that our main server infrastructure was custom built around legacy DoD requirements, or that half the security protocols depend on human judgment calls that can't be automated. Most importantly, they don't have the security clearances required to legally access the data they're supposed to protect. Wayne had just hired foreign nationals to handle classified American military information. In federal law, that's not a budget optimization, it's espionage. I drove home to my apartment in Arlington, same modest place I'd lived since the divorce 7 years ago. Simple, clean, walking distance to the metro. Everything I needed, nothing I didn't. Military habits die hard. Cracked open a Budweiser and settled into my recliner to wait for the inevitable chain reaction. Experience taught me exactly how this would unfold. The offshore team would try to access systems they didn't understand, using procedures they'd memorized without comprehension. They'd trigger automated security responses designed to protect classified information from unauthorized access attempts. Then the real fun would begin. At 11:47 p.m., my personal phone buzzed with the first alert. I'd built the notification system myself 3 years ago, so my number was hard-coded into the emergency contact database. Old military habit of maintaining multiple communication channels and backup procedures. System alert. Unrecognized IP attempting admin access on classified network segment. I opened my laptop and navigated to the building's security monitoring interface. Separate network that I also maintained because Dave and facilities couldn't handle anything more complicated than password resets. The camera feed showed me everything I needed to know. Server room lights strobing red like a Christmas tree having a seizure. On the main office floor, someone had remote access to workstation. The screen showed multiple windows open, command prompts, network diagnostics, system configuration panels. The offshore contractors were attempting to troubleshoot their access problems by poking around inside the network. It was painful to watch, like seeing fresh recruits try to disarm an IED with a ball-peen hammer and positive thinking. They were changing DNS settings inside the secure network enclave. That's a massive red flag in any properly configured defense system. It signals that the network infrastructure is being hijacked by hostile actors. Our automated security protocols were designed by people who understood that classified military networks don't get reconfigured by trial and error. The system responded exactly as programmed, immediate lockdown to protect classified information from potential compromise. This wasn't just any data they were tampering with. Project Arrows contained real-time operational coordination for active military deployments. Convoy routes, supply schedules, personnel movements, the kind of information that intercepted by hostile forces could get American soldiers killed in real time. I'd seen the consequences of compromised operational security during my deployment. Bodies coming home in flag-draped coffins because someone got careless with classified information. The weight of those memories never leaves you, and it's why I took this job seriously in a way that Wayne Fletcher would never understand. At 12:15 a.m., my phone erupted with federal alerts. Multiple notifications cascading across the screen like digital alarm bells. The contractors had triggered Protocol 7 and the automated response for suspected hostile infiltration of classified defense networks. Level Red Security Alert, the digital equivalent of DEFCON 1 for cybersecurity incidents. That meant someone in a windowless room at the Pentagon was now wide awake, staring at threat indicators and preparing to activate federal response protocols. When you trigger a level red on a DoD contractor network, you don't just get IT support, you get federal agents, military investigators, and career-ending questions about how foreign nationals gained access to classified American military data. I didn't call Wayne, didn't send a warning text. Why interrupt an enemy when he's making tactical errors? Every decision he'd made over the next few hours would be documented in federal investigation reports. Every excuse about fiscal optimization and offshore efficiency would be entered as evidence in what was about to become a very serious criminal case. Instead, I opened another beer and watched the show unfold through the security cameras. Wayne was about to learn that some corners of government bureaucracy you really don't want to cut. At 4:30 a.m., Wayne started calling me 7 times in 20 minutes. I let every single call go straight to voicemail and played them back like a documentary of a man's career imploding in real time. Voicemail 1, timestamp 4:48 a.m. Evan, it's Wayne. Listen, we're getting some weird automated calls from government numbers. Probably just a glitch in that legacy system you maintained. The offshore team says they're getting blocked from normal operations. I need you to provide the override codes to disable these security alerts. The noise is disrupting their productivity. His voice sounded annoyed, slightly inconvenienced, like he was dealing with a malfunctioning coffee machine instead of a federal security breach. He still thought he was in control of the situation. Voicemail 3, timestamp 5:22 a.m. Evan, this is getting ridiculous. The building's fire suppression system activated in the server room. Henderson from security says the temperature sensors are reading critical levels. The offshore consultants can't work under these conditions. I need you to walk me through the manual override procedures immediately." Now there was an edge of panic creeping into his voice. The automated systems were doing exactly what they were designed to do: protect classified data by any means necessary, including flooding the server room with fire suppressant if thermal conditions suggested potential hardware destruction. Voicemail 5, timestamp 5:58 a.m. The fire department just arrived. They're asking about hazardous materials and classified data protocols. I don't understand what they're talking about. Henderson gave them some kind of emergency contact sheet with federal phone numbers. Why would the fire department need to call federal agencies? This is just a server cooling issue, right? Wayne was finally starting to grasp that he wasn't dealing with routine IT maintenance. When emergency responders encounter potential security breaches at defense contractor facilities, they follow very specific protocols that involve very serious people. Voicemail 7, timestamp 6:35 a.m. Evan, federal agents just walked into the lobby. They're not local police or fire department. These are guys in suits with earpieces and federal credentials. They're asking for the information systems security officer. That's your position. I told them you were temporarily unavailable due to personnel transitions, but they said to locate you immediately. Whatever this is, I need you here right now. Name your consulting rate, whatever you want. The desperation in his voice was almost satisfying. Almost, but this wasn't about personal vindication anymore. This was about national security protocols that Wayne had triggered through sheer corporate arrogance. At 6:47 a.m., my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. Military area code from the DC metro region. I knew who this was before I answered. "This is General Thompson, Department of Defense Cyber Command." Do not hang up this phone. His voice had that unmistakable command presence you can't fake or learn in business school. Authority earned through decades of military service and real-world responsibility for protecting American interests. "I'm listening, General. We have a level red security incident at Aerotech Solutions involving classified defense contracts. Your name appears as the primary systems administrator and designated security officer on multiple DoD agreements. Current facility management claims they cannot access their own systems to verify data integrity or assess potential compromise. I understand the situation, General. As of Tuesday afternoon, I was terminated from my position due to budget constraints. Management replaced me with an offshore technical services provider to reduce operational costs." The silence on the line stretched for what felt like an eternity. When General Thompson spoke again, his voice had dropped to a register that could freeze molten steel. "Terminated? You held TS-SCI clearance as the designated security officer for classified military contracts, and civilian management terminated you without following proper federal handover protocols." "Correct, sir. Replaced with a foreign national team that lacks the required security clearances for classified data access." Jesus Christ. I could hear the general's breathing change. "Mr. Martinez, I'm formally requesting your immediate assistance under federal emergency protocols. Not as an Aerotech employee, but as a cleared American citizen with critical system knowledge necessary for national security. Can you respond to the facility within 30 minutes? I can be there in 25 minutes, General." "Outstanding. I'll have a federal security detail meet you at the building perimeter. Bring identification and any documentation related to the compromised systems." The drive back to Aerotech felt like returning to a combat zone, red and blue lights visible from 6 blocks away. Police cars, fire trucks, ambulances, and the telltale black government SUVs that meant federal agencies had taken control of the situation. I pulled my beat-up Honda Civic up to the police perimeter. A young Arlington County officer approached with his hand raised in the universal stop gesture. "Roads closed, sir. Federal security incident at the technology facility. You'll need to find an alternate route. Evan Martinez." General Thompson requested my response for technical consultation. The officer touched his earpiece and spoke quietly into his radio. After a moment, his entire demeanor changed from routine traffic control to respectful deference. "Yes, sir, Mr. Martinez. Proceed directly to the main entrance. General Thompson is waiting for you inside." I parked next to a black Suburban that probably cost more than my annual salary. The building's main lobby had been transformed into a federal command center. FBI technicians unpacking electronic equipment cases. Military personnel in digital camouflage uniforms establishing communication stations. Federal agents interviewing terrified Aerotech employees who'd been pulled out of bed and brought in for questioning. And there, in the center of the controlled chaos, stood Wayne Fletcher. His expensive suit was wrinkled, his tie loosened, and he was sweating despite the air conditioning. He was trying to explain something to a man in military uniform who radiated the kind of authority that comes from commanding soldiers in actual combat situations. "General Thompson tall, gray-haired, with the bearing of someone who'd spent decades making life and death decisions under pressure. The kind of officer who inspires confidence in subordinates and fear in enemies. When I walked through the glass doors, Wayne's face went through a rapid series of expressions. Relief, hope, panic, and finally, the dawning realization that I wasn't there to save his career. "Evan, thank God you're here," Wayne called out, starting to move toward me. "Tell them this is just a routine technical malfunction. Explain how to reset the security systems. These people don't understand that this is just a business optimization issue." I walked past Wayne without acknowledging him and approached General Thompson with proper military bearing. Squared shoulders, direct eye contact, respectful but confident posture. General Thompson, Evan Martinez, former Systems Compliance Officer. We shook hands. His grip was firm and steady, the handshake of someone who meant exactly what he said and expected the same in return. "Mr. Martinez, thank you for responding. I need a clear assessment of our situation. What are we dealing with here?" "System is in protective lockdown mode, sir. Core classified data remains secure behind multiple encryption barriers, but the hardware infrastructure is approaching thermal failure due to emergency cooling protocols. We have approximately 12 minutes before permanent equipment damage occurs. Can you restore normal operations without compromising data security?" "Affirmative, sir, but I'll need my access credentials restored and administrative privileges reinstated." General Thompson nodded and turned to Wayne with an expression that could have melted armor plating. "Mr. Fletcher, you will immediately provide Mr. Martinez with whatever access he requires. This is not a request." Wayne stammered something about corporate policies and authorization procedures. The general's response was swift and unambiguous. "Mr. Fletcher, this facility is now under temporary federal oversight pending completion of our security investigation. Corporate policies are suspended. National security takes precedence over your org chart." 2 federal agents flanked Wayne and escorted him toward the elevators to retrieve my confiscated access credentials. I could see in his eyes the exact moment when he realized that his cost-cutting decision had just ended his career and potentially his freedom. I sat at the emergency terminal while Wayne was marched upstairs under federal escort. My fingers moved across the keyboard with 19 years of muscle memory, 12 in the Army Signal Corps, 7 protecting defense contractor networks. This wasn't just system repair. This was safeguarding the operational security that keeps American soldiers alive overseas. "Status report, Mr. Martinez?" General Thompson asked, positioning himself where he could observe both my work and the room's activity. "Core data integrity verified and secure, sir." The automated defense systems performed exactly as designed. They detected unauthorized access attempts and implemented protective protocols. However, the thermal management system is approaching critical failure. If we don't restore environmental controls within 60 seconds, we'll have permanent hardware damage worth approximately $2 million. Wayne returned flanked by federal agents, my RSA token clutched in his shaking hands like a lifeline. His face had gone pale, and sweat stained his designer shirt despite the building's aggressive air conditioning. "Here," Wayne gasped, practically throwing the device at me. "Fix it. Please, make this stop." I plugged in the token, entered my credentials, and executed the emergency override sequence. 20 years of experience had taught me exactly which commands would restore normal operations without triggering additional security protocols. The server room fans spun up like jet engines starting their sequence. Temperature readings on my monitor began dropping immediately from the critical red zone back toward normal operational parameters. Environmental systems restored. I reported all classified data remains secure and encrypted. No evidence of successful penetration or data compromise. General Thompson nodded with professional satisfaction. "Outstanding work. Now show me the evidence of this security breach." I pulled up the connection logs and displayed them on the main conference room monitor. The offshore contractor team used consumer-grade remote access software on classified defense networks. Specifically, they attempted to install TeamViewer, free software available to any civilian on a TS-SCI SysUb, containing active military logistics data. The general stared at the screen, his expression hardening with each line of evidence. "That's not just gross incompetence, Mr. Martinez. That constitutes criminal negligence that could have compromised ongoing military operations and endangered American personnel." Wayne had collapsed into a chair, his head buried in his hands. "I was just trying to optimize operational costs," he whispered. "Maximize shareholder value. Standard business practices." "You saved approximately 4% on annual payroll costs," I said, keeping my voice matter-of-fact rather than accusatory. "In return, you've cost this company its federal operating license, triggered a criminal investigation, and potentially exposed classified military information to foreign nationals." General Thompson's voice carried the weight of absolute authority. "This facility is now under temporary military oversight pending completion of our security assessment. Mr. Fletcher, you'll be accompanying federal investigators for detailed questioning about your decision-making process and authorization procedures. Wayne looked up with desperate eyes. What about the company? What happens to Aerotech? That depends entirely on our investigation findings, Thompson replied. If we determine that classified information was actually compromised, this facility will be permanently shut down, and all personnel will face federal charges. If we conclude that your automated security systems prevented actual data breach, there might be possibilities for remediation under new management. The general turned to me. Mr. Martinez, given your security clearance, system knowledge, and demonstrated competence under crisis conditions, I'm offering you immediate appointment as Provisional Site Security Director. Salary commensurate with federal GS-14 scale plus hazard pay differential. Significantly higher compensation than your previous position. I looked around the room. Federal agents efficiently documenting everything. Wayne Fletcher's corporate career lying in ruins around his expensive shoes. The offshore contractors probably getting very uncomfortable questions from law enforcement in whatever country they've been operating from. I accept the appointment, General. Thompson actually smiled. The first time I'd seen any emotion other than professional sternness. Excellent. Your first assignment is rebuilding this security department with properly cleared American personnel. No more offshore experiments. 3 weeks later, I was sitting in the corner office, Wayne's former domain, interviewing candidates for my new cybersecurity team, all American citizens, all veterans with active security clearances, all people who understood that protecting classified information isn't just a job description, it's a continuation of military service by other means. Tommy Foster knocked on my doorframe. Mr. Martinez, the new security architecture is fully implemented according to your specifications. And I wanted to thank you again for warning me to avoid the whole offshore situation. Smart move staying clear, Tommy. Stick around, learn the proper procedures. We're building something here that'll last. I opened the window and lit a cigarette. Yeah, I know smoking isn't supposed to be allowed in federal facilities, but who's gonna write me up? The guy who fired me was currently answering very detailed questions in a windowless government building downtown. My phone buzzed with a text from Sophie. Dad, saw the news article about your company. Sounds like you saved the day. Tuition payment went through perfectly. Love you. I smiled and took another drag. Sometimes the system works exactly the way it's designed to. When you respect the people who actually know what they're doing, when you understand that experience and expertise can't be replaced by cost-cutting spreadsheets and overseas bargain hunting, when you remember that some responsibilities are more important than quarterly profit margins. Wayne Fletcher learned that lesson the expensive way. Aerotech learned it when General Thompson made crystal clear that cutting corners on national security has federal consequences that no amount of corporate insurance can cover. The server room smells clean now. Ozone and reliability and the satisfaction of systems maintained by people who earned their clearances through service, not through whoever submitted the lowest bid. Sophie's tuition is secure, my mortgage payments are comfortable again, and every morning when I walk into this building, I know that the work we're doing here matters. Not just for corporate profits or shareholder value, but for the safety of American soldiers serving overseas who depend on secure communications and protected logistics data. That's worth considerably more than Wayne's offshore savings could ever deliver. Here's what I learned, and maybe it'll help you if you're dealing with similar corporate nonsense in your own career. Never let anyone convince you that your experience doesn't have value. Don't let some MBA with a spreadsheet tell you that what you've spent decades learning can be replaced by the lowest bidder from halfway around the world. Your expertise matters, your knowledge matters. And when push comes to shove, the people making the real decisions, the ones with actual responsibility for outcomes. They understand the difference between genuine competence and cost-cutting theater. Sometimes you have to let the corporate types learn that lesson the hard way, but eventually reality wins. Stand your ground, know your worth, and remember that sometimes getting fired is the best career move you never planned to make.